As I've said many times before on this channel, the comics industry is not in the same place it was a decade or two ago, where once the sales and optimism flew about all over the place like the stars of the panels themselves. Over the years, more lines, less leeway, and higher costs have meant that sales have gone down while saturation has gone way, way up. Therefore, in order to grab attention, certain superheroes have taken to shock tactics or gruesome acts or downright spicy content in order to turn heads. Whether it's sexual misconduct, outdated values, or good old-fashioned racism, the following stories are not just inappropriate for children, they're inappropriate for reading in general. Oh, what a time we're gonna have. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 most inappropriate DC Comics storylines ever. Number 10. Cinder kills sex offenders with more sex. There was a short period of time where the Teen Titans comic shifted focus from its lineup of famous sidekicks to follow the story of Deathstroke and a team of niche villains. And trust me, these villains don't get much more niche than Carla Moretti, aka Cinder, an Italian woman with the power to turn her body into molten lava. In a misguided attempt to address an important issue, Titans Villains for Hire revealed that Cinder's origin story began when, as a child, she was molested by her uncle. She now spends her days getting revenge by hunting down sex offenders and having sex with them. And then she turns a certain bit of her body to lava, burning off the offenders' dicks in the process. Sounds like a weird way to get revenge, right? I mean, just ask yourself, why the hell does she need to have sex with them to accomplish the revenge in question? Why this character's trauma of sexual assault was turned into a cheap gimmick, we'll never know. Number 9. Superman designs a robot to spank Lois Lane. Now, as we all know, Lois Lane is a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist. She is so far removed from the damsel in distress of old that it's embarrassing to look back at comics of an earlier age and see what they did with her. Take, for example, the comic Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. In one storyline, Lois tries to prove to Superman that she is ready for marriage by moving into the Fortress of Solitude. In a series of accidents, Lois ends up being repeatedly spanked by a robot that looks just like Superman. She can't even sit down for days afterwards, but believes that she got what she deserved for being a bad girl. What's worse, though, is that this was Superman's plan all along. He had the robot programmed to spank Lois in an attempt to prove that the fortress was not a safe place for her to live. What a dick. Number 8. Deathstroke sleeps with his son's fiancée. He may not look it, but Deathstroke the Terminator is a family man at heart. Although he has trouble expressing his feelings, he cares deeply for his son Jericho, and is worried when he starts to suspect that Jericho's fiancée, Etienne, might actually be a spy. So he does what any caring father in his situation would do. He seduces and sleeps with her. Sorry, did I just skip a few pages? No, that's actually what happened, and worse still, she's not even a spy and wants to carry on with Jericho. And even worse than this, she ends up dead the morning of Jericho and Etienne's wedding, and Deathstroke gets the blame. Number 7. Green Lantern dates a 13-year-old girl. Aricia, the 13-year-old girl in question, was a Green Lantern with a big old crush on old man Hal Jordan, and so decided that she wanted to act on her emotions by using the magic power of her ring to appear as an adult woman, rather than the child that she was. She then confessed her love to Hal and told him that being 13 was the same as being of age for her alien species. Obviously, Hal Jordan would never fall for this, I hear you cry, and refused to date this literal 13-year-old child. Oh no, wait, no, that's not what he did. That's not what he did at all. He fully dated her. Green Lantern straight up had a long-term relationship with an actual child. Number 6. There are only white people in the future. Mike Grell had been drawing the Superboy comic for some time when he noticed something strange about it. Although it was set in the 30th century, the cast and supporting characters were made up almost entirely of white people. Unless they were a blue-skinned alien like the Legion of Superheroes is Shadow Lass, the citizens of the 2900s were not exactly very diverse. Grell made several attempts to introduce black characters, but his editor, Murray Boltinoff, expressed expressly forbid it. When Grell asked why, Boltinoff would state that he had a plan for a story that would explain the lack of black people, but he'd just have to wait and see what it was. Eventually, Boltinoff would reveal his master plan. In his story, every black person on Earth had moved to Marzal, an isolationist island city that was cut off from all civilization. The people of Marzal, especially their leader Tirok, were violently opposed to living or working alongside anyone who was not also black. This was supposed to be an analogy for something. Whatever it was, Mike Grell absolutely hated it, referring to it as the most racist concept I've ever heard in my life. He made sure to draw Tirok in the most ridiculous costume possible as a small revenge on his editor. Number 5. Wonder Woman stays behind to do admin. Wonder Woman is by far the most iconic female superhero of all time, with her origins rooted in the feminist movement. Although she had always been a core member of the DC Trinity and the Justice League, there was one super team that treated her with utter contempt: the Justice Society of America. Of course, it couldn't just be a boys' club, so the JSA invited Wonder Woman to join their team as a secretary. This sounds like the kind of thing that William Moulton Marston, the deeply feminist co-creator of Wonder Woman, would not stand for. Sadly though, this was actually his idea. Yes, the man who described his creation as the new type of woman who, I believe, should rule the world, decided that she was also the type of woman who should stay behind to type up agendas while the men go out to save the day. Number 4. Superman sleeps with a mermaid. Frank Miller and John Romita Jr.'s recent Superman Year One was a strange beast indeed. Superman's origin story is already iconic and well known by even the most casual superhero fans, but Miller and Romita, on the other hand, well, they decided that they needed 3 prestige format issues to tell their version, and somehow they managed to add absolutely nothing new to the story. Well, almost nothing new. While the first issue focuses on Clark Kent's childhood in Kansas, and the third issue is all about Superman making his debut to the public in New York, the difficult middle issue takes a bizarre and weirdly unnecessary detour to Atlantis. Here, Superman falls in love and begins a sexual relationship with Laurie, a mermaid. However, if he wants to stay with her, he must first prove himself by facing off against her father, the powerful King Poseidon, who also wants to sleep with Laurie. Of course, Superman wins the day and becomes the king of Atlantis. I think it's very unclear. Whatever happened, though, he promises Laurie that he will never leave her and that he will spend his lifetime with her in Atlantis. He leaves at the beginning of the next issue without saying goodbye to anyone. Good. Number 3. Batman betrays one sidekick to impregnate another. Although Batman has a reputation for being the dark, brooding hero who only works alone, fans of his comics actually know that this couldn't be further from the truth. As the patriarch of the Bat family, Bruce Wayne has one of the largest support systems of any superhero, with more sidekicks than you could shake a side stick at. You would think that he would work hard to keep this support system feeling, supported, and wouldn't risk tearing it apart just to get his back rocks off. Well, it turns out that you'd be wrong, very, very wrong. In Batman Beyond 2.0, a comic book follow-up to the animated series set in the future, it is revealed that Robin, Batman's first ever partner, had a relationship with Batgirl, Batman's second ever partner, and his closest friend's daughter. Nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, the two were around the same age and obviously had a lot in common. But it's then revealed that when Batgirl got pregnant, it wasn't from her boyfriend Robin, but from her boss and father figure, Batman. While she was obviously still dating Robin, of course. Number 2. With great power comes irresponsibility. It must be tough being Superman. I mean, the pressure on him to be ever ready to save the world from any and all threats and disasters must be pretty immense. So you couldn't really blame him if he wanted to just take a break from the whole superhero thing and just go for a long walk. I mean, this is the premise of Superman Grounded, a 7-issue run in which Superman gives up flights and fights in an effort to find himself and the meaning of his existence. Along the way, he makes some truly bizarre, wildly out of character choices. In one scene that mirrors one of the most famous moments from the far superior all-star Superman, he tries to talk a young suicidal girl down from jumping off a building. And how does he do this? Well, he tells her to go ahead and jump if she really wants to, and he promises that he will not catch her. Thankfully, she decides against jumping in the end, but Superman makes a point of letting everyone know that he was serious about not catching her. Samaritans might have something to say about your policies there, mate. And number 1, cocaine gives you superpowers and vampires give you AIDS. DC is known for its rogues gallery, housing some of the most iconic villains of any medium. The New Guardians, a fairly obscure DC title from the 80s, attempted to make some new contributions to this lineup, but unfortunately what we ended up with were 2 of the most poorly thought out villains in comics history. The first of these was Snowflame, the leader of a Colombian drug cartel and a man who gained his superpowers from ingesting cocaine. Anytime Snowflame took a sniff of the old white stuff, he would increase his strength and become engulfed in a dangerous white fire. Despite the irresponsibility of teaching impressionable minds that taking cocaine will turn you into a superhero, Snowflame somehow became a cult favourite from his one and only appearance. But on the flip side though, if you're looking for a character who is decidedly not a cult favourite, then look no further than the Hemo Goblin, a white supremacist vampire whose sole mission was to exterminate non-whites, and also gave the AIDS virus to members of the New Guardians. Honestly, that sentence just makes me so sad that it was used for shock value and to compare HIV on a similar plane as vampirism. Not a very progressive take on the matter at all.